Geez Louise, what is going on with my dough today? This is way too gloppy and sticky. First steps first, feed my starters. First, Doug H. gets a good stir down. $50 grams of starter, or 51. $100 grams of water, quick stir, $10 grams of rye flour, $10 grams of white whole wheat flour, and 80 grams of all-purpose flour. Doug H. is going to be turned into pita bread later, so we'll set him aside to rise. Doris gets similar treatment, but with 20 grams of white whole wheat flour and 100 grams of all-purpose flour. I want to test out different dough hydration, so I'm making one that's 65% and one that's 75%. I use 25 grams of the unfed Doris in each bowl. I measure out the carefully calculated grams of water and flour for each bowl. Or do I? I could explain hydration and how to measure your hydration levels, but I'm going to have to save that for a different video. I mix up the doughs, cover them in plastic, and I'll visit them in about 30 minutes. It's time for the first stretch and fold, only it's not very stretchy and I really can't fold it. Different dough, same problem. Let's go back and check on my flour measurements from earlier. Remember, I need 265 grams of flour. Here's 100 and 65 and 100 and 65 for the second bowl. Oh, I shorted each bowl by 100 grams of flour. At my second stretch and fold, I add 100 grams additional of flour to make up for what I missed earlier in the day. It's lumpy, it's sticky, and it's a mess. But at least it's starting to come together. Time for the third stretch and fold. Still lumpy, but more stretchy and less sticky. One last stretch and fold, and then both starters and doughs are left overnight. It looks like the starters and the doughs have been active overnight. Doris is going into the refrigerator until next week. Doug is set aside while I deal with this dough. After a little nudge, the dough starts coming out of the bowl. It's so loose and just seems to want to puddle. Second dough, same process. You can see that by the time I added the second dough, the first dough had flattened considerably. I let the dough rest for about 30 minutes and then put into the Dutch ovens for baking. Flattening going on. This Dutch oven is larger, and I don't think that helped the end product. Surprise, surprise, I also had trouble scoring this very soft dough. But into the oven it goes at 450 degrees for about 50 minutes. Okay, this one I think I can work with. But I'm a little embarrassed to show you this one. It's super flat, it's uneven, bleh. Yep, this one I can work with. If you're here for the pita bread, let's get started. I got my camera set up and my KitchenAid mixer set up and got all my stuff together, and guess what? I recorded it all. I didn't mean to record it all, but that means I didn't record me getting the ingredients together. So here's what I did. I used half a cup of fed sourdough starter, 1 cup of water, a half a cup of whole wheat flour, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I mixed this for 10 minutes. While the dough is mixing, I need to refeed the starter. Just like before, it's 50 grams of starter, 100 grams of water, 10 grams of rye flour, 10 grams of white whole wheat flour, and 80 grams of all-purpose flour. And we'll set it aside to double before we put it back in the refrigerator. The dough is a little sticky, so I add about a 1/4 cup more of flour. The dough has come together, so I put it into an oiled bowl and let it rise until doubled, about 4 to 6 hours. After the dough has doubled, split it into 8 even pieces. Form each piece into a ball. Let the dough rest for 15 minutes. After the dough has rested, roll each ball into a 6-inch circle. The dough is a little sticky, so I'm adding flour to help with the rolling. Once the dough has been rolled out, let them rise for about 30 minutes until a little puffy. While the dough has been rising, the oven has been preheating to 500 degrees. I bake 4 at a time on a pizza stone. Here we go. After 5 minutes, 3 out of 4 have nicely puffed up. The fourth got folded over itself a bit and didn't puff up quite as much. We'll get the second batch in the oven and see how that one goes. Check out that puff. These probably aren't the prettiest, most symmetrical pita pockets you've ever seen, but I had a lot of fun making them. Grocery store pita bread is dry and falls apart easily, but these are soft and delicious. I had to make some homemade hummus to go with this pita bread, so be sure to subscribe so you can watch that video as soon as I post it.